Hi, this is Lori Johnson with Hancock Whitney Bank, and you're listening to Local Leaders, the podcast. Visit localleadersthepodcast.com for previous episodes or for information on appearing on the show.
Hey everyone, it's Jim Chapman with Local Leaders, the podcast, and I want to make you aware of a fantastic deal they have going on right now at Fit Body Boot Camp in Denham Springs, Louisiana. If you go to the link getfitdenhamsprings.com/local leaders, you can get $30 off of the regular price of $129 for 30 days of classes. Go to the link, click it, sign up. 30-day classes for only $99 through that link. It's a special deal offered to all of our listeners at Local Leaders, the podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Local Leaders, the podcast. And the gentleman I have sitting across from me is no stranger to anyone in Livingston Parish. He's been in the realm of our government here locally for a long time, and that is Mr. Layton Ricks, the parish president. So how are you today, sir?
Good morning. Doing fine. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. And I guess before we go into kind of the things we want to talk about, we have some exciting things going on in the parish. I wanted to, how long have you been the parish president?
Since 2012. Got elected in 11 and took over January of 2012.
Yeah, so you've seen a few things go on in the parish, floods and
the sheriff and I took office the same year, and we joke about it all the time. We think we've seen just about every disaster that you can have. We've been through it in Livingston Parish over the last 11 years.
I'm gonna tell you,
and have done it together. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, it really has. Interesting to say the least. But once you go through it once, if it ever occurs again, well, you got experience.
That's
exactly
know how to
react, right?
It is something to see too when you go through it, and you're out there in that Homeland Security office and watching what happens at EOC. It's unbelievable how people come together in these disasters.
Yeah, and I think some of that is just our parish and how we as a people kind of come together. The flood was a big example of that.
Correct.
We were all kind of stuck and having to rely on each other, and I've talked about that on previous podcasts, but it was a beautiful thing to see. And
that was really the only really good thing to see in that flood, because it was 80+% of the parish, and people were hurting every day. But when you saw them come together, helping one another when they themselves needed help, it just touched your heart, and it was gut wrenching to see what people were going through. And of course, you're going through it yourself. Your families are going through it while you're trying to, in our role out there. But we had a job to do.
Yeah.
And you try to get through it. But emotionally, Mark Harrell, my Homeland Security Director, and I have talked about it numerous times, and we'll tear up even today, because you just don't realize emotionally what that one did to us because of what we saw and how it just devastated people.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I had some family come down from Lafayette, and they came down to help gut and all those things, and they turned down my street and they said, we did not know it was this bad. Yeah. And she said it was like a war zone. Just everybody's it was unbelievable. Everybody's life in the front yard. Right?
Yeah, and you move people all around where you typically would move them, and then you'd have to go get them and move them again, because it just did some really strange things that whole time. And so it was tough, but we at least had the experience that Mark had of running disasters, and we had been through several disasters since 100%. I've been in office. And but to watch people come together and to watch how they can work and get things done, you just wouldn't believe it if you weren't out there watching it. It's just unbelievable.
I agree, and look how we've come back, right?
Yes.
I mean, amazing.
Bigger, stronger than I ever thought we would at this point. I knew we would eventually, because our people in Livingston Parish are so resilient.
Yeah.
And they just don't wait on government. They get things done. But I did not think it would be where we are today this quick.
Really amazing.
It really is amazing. I mean, if proof of that is just read the headlines with all the subdivision discussions going on in Livingston Parish, you'll know what we're dealing with. And that, I mean, we're just talking really a short time frame from the flood.
Yeah, great point. And I want to talk a little bit about some of those improvements that we have coming down the pipeline. Finally, we were talking about this a little bit off camera, but the Cook Road extension.
Oh my God, that is, and I always say that's my baby, but really it's everybody's, and it's something that we've been very passionate about since we were campaigning in 2011. It all revolved around the promises made for the Jubin Crossing Mall that was really just dirt when we took office. And we didn't know if it ever really would happen, but we kept pushing and pushing, trying to make it happen. And then I think it was around 2014 or 15 when I was in a meeting with Secretary Sherry LeBat at that time of DOTD in Baton Rouge with former Mayor Jimmy Durbin. And Sherry looked at me and she said, "Mr. President, I believe I can come up with some money for you for your Cook Road extension." I said, "What?" Well, it was involved with the old Pete's Highway interchange funding that actually was language back from 2003 and 5 on a trip to D.C. when Richard Baker was congressman. That's how far back the concept of having something like that went. And, of course, just lay dormant because there was no real funding, but they were able to give us that money to put on the Cook Road extension because Federal Highway would not let us put an interchange that close to the other interchanges. That gave us a big spurt to really get cranked up on Cook Road extension again, plus the promises that had been made by the developer of the mall to the box stores that road would be in place. So he was sort of under the gun to make that happen too, and so he had some in-kind contributions initially that helped us.
Oh, very good.
But we were able to do that, and of course Secretary Sean Wilson made sure those fundings stayed in place, even though they took those actual dollars and utilized them because it's taken so long through the years to get the project started. He made sure there were funds in place of those when we needed them, as we needed them when we went along. So it just finally all came together. So it revolved around the legislative body and certainly Secretary Sean Wilson and the state and Federal Highway and, I mean, CRPC. We had everybody you can imagine that could be involved. And, of course, Parish put up dollars too. At one point, it probably would have been a $12, $13, $14 million project. It rounds up right at 21.7 as things have escalated through the years with right-of-way acquisition and construction costs and all these other things. But it's going to be a great project. 1.8 miles, 2 bridges involved, but it's going to link Pete's Highway in Denham Springs to Jubin. As you know, the Jubin Widening project is going on. So, I mean, for emergency, evacuation, going to the mall, there's just all kind of good things to say about this. And now that this has finally started, we're also starting on the Jubin North extension, which will carry it up to Lockhart. So this whole area at some point down the road, and I wanted to live long enough to see especially Cook Road extension because I just worked so hard for it. Well, and everybody did. But it at the end of the day, it's going to be a great project. And I think the one I give the most credit to is Fort and DeBlata engineering firm. They carried the ball for the parish, making sure that all these things kept going like they should with all the different parties, and everybody was involved, but they were the ones that really stayed the course and made sure it happened at the end of the day. And it's going to be a great project. Richard Price Construction, I was so pleased to see them get the bid, local company. You always like that.
Love it.
Always. And they do great work. They've done work for us before. They do great work. So I was very, very pleased for them and certainly for the parish. So I think it's, at the end of the day, going to be a great project.
I think so, too, and a needed project. And we did talk a little bit off camera about some of these things. You know, it'd be nice if somebody says, yeah, we've got some money for that extension and write you a check right there on the spot. But unfortunately, that's not the way government works.
Jim, as I said off camera, with everybody on board, with funding in place, and of course, you're always fighting to keep the funding, but with funding in place, it still takes all these years to make something happen. And Congressman Gray said it best the other day, if somehow or another we could just find a way to get rid of some of the bureaucracy. And people really don't, you know, I've heard all my life how in government it just takes forever. But if you're not in government and see how long it actually takes, then if you're sitting out here watching, you think, what are they doing?
Yes.
Just like after the flood, it was announced that we were getting all these millions. Well, why weren't we cleaning out the waterways the next day? It doesn't happen that way. And but if you're not out there involved, you don't really know that. It takes years to get things approved, funding in place, all the people to sign off on it, especially the Corps of Engineers, DEQ, all these people have to be okay with anything you're doing now, especially in this day and time. So it just takes a lot of time, but we're getting this one done. We will get Juba North Extension done as well.
Very good.
First new road in the parish, I've been told, in well over 125 years. I don't know.
It's amazing
that's a fact, but I've been told that.
Yeah. Well, if it ain't the first, it's one of very few.
Well, it is one of very few. That's for sure.
Yeah. So very good. Sandra Richard has been in the business of selling homes for over 20 years. This award-winning realtor brings the perfect blend of professionalism, integrity, and client satisfaction to every buying and selling transaction. A passion for both her clients and her community makes Sandra the perfect choice when buying or selling your home. So if you're in need, call the Cajun Lady, Sandra Richard, at 225-955-5484, or visit her on the web at sandrasellshouses.com. Sandra Richard, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. I want to talk about the moratorium a little bit. I've done a show. I had Tracy Garlinghouse on here. We kind of talked about his thoughts on it. He was someone that was kind of against that, even though he's not the biggest fan of small subdivisions, I guess you could say, small house subdivisions. He felt like you needed to vote, the way these ordinances were set up now. If they're following those rules, then there's not a whole lot you can do to stop them. And he voted based off of the law. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but in the end, it ended up being a 60-day moratorium with an option to go another 30 days. How are they coming along with that? Or
it's my understanding they passed a lot of different parts of the ordinance last meeting and this meeting this Thursday night. It's my understanding that they should just about, if not completely, wrap up the ordinance changes, and I think it's going to be a good ordinance at the end of the day. And the talk is that they will then be able to lift the moratorium either this week or possibly the next meeting if they don't do it this meeting. Yeah. Personally, I've always been against moratoriums. As I told you off camera, I don't like them. I don't think you need them. But in this particular case, because it was such a contentious thing and because it looked and appeared that the council was about to about to come together on this and get it resolved, then I certainly wasn't going to veto a 60-day temporary moratorium when I knew with the hard work they were putting in, they would be able to get this wrapped up. And true enough, they're just about there. They are to be, I think, commended and complimented. Look. When you're against something, you're against it, and you can find all kind of ways to be against it. When you're for it, same thing. You can find all kind of ways of why you think you're for it. If I'm living here in a big subdivision, there's no way I'm going to be for it if it's coming next to me. Yeah. But when you've got an ordinance in place, voted on, supported, it's law. That's it. When a development comes and it meets that ordinance and asks for no variance or no waivers, they meet your ordinance that you put in place, you must approve and move that ordinance, move that development forward. Yeah. If you don't, you run the risk of not only being sued from a parish councilman standpoint, but personally. Personally. And look, you're told that up front. You know that going in. Yeah. Now, when you got 40 to 50 people sitting out there staring at you that don't want this, it's tough. It's hard. And so I think the council took everything into account by doing a temporary moratorium, giving themselves a little bit of time, but at the same time saying, okay, we've only got 60 days. We got to get this done. Yeah. So I didn't want to veto that. Yeah. I think some of the people thought originally I would veto this ordinance that they put in place because I vetoed the other, but it was just the 2.5 on density that I was against. Yeah. I wanted the 2.5 versus 2. Sure. Originally, I really wanted 3 if it were up to me personally, but let's compromise. I'll go with 2.5, and I think it made a difference. So that's what I thought they were going to do. But when they got to the meeting, some things changed, and they voted like they did, and so I vetoed it. And there was a little bit of language that needed to be changed. But outside of that, I've supported the council 100% in what they're doing, although personally I may not like some of it. Parish president-wise, what they're doing, I think, because we are growing at the rate we're growing at, I have to support. Yeah. Zoning is one of those issues. Tracy, you mentioned Tracy a while ago. He and I talk about it. He knows that personally I don't like it at all. Yeah. But as parish president and the fastest growing parish in the state, I'm going to support it because I think it will protect not only the people here, which is primary, but it will also protect people who are going to make investments into our parish because they'll know where they can make those investments and hopefully turn out to be positive investments. So I think with the rate we're growing, we've got to do that, and I think the council's going to tackle that. They already are, very soon. So I think that'll be the next big thing. That'll be the headlines. But the council's smart. They work well together. They have their differences, as they should. There's 9 different personalities. Then I'm the 10th. Yeah. But overall, I think they've done a good job with this. And really, although it doesn't seem like it's a short period of time, really, when you figure all that they've been through with these developments, really, they've done it pretty quickly.
Yeah. And, from not only the legislative side, but the administrative side of parish government, wow, man, y'all got a lot to do. Y'all, the work involved, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot, Jim. And look, it's easy, and this is no, I'm not putting down on anybody, but it's easy to sit back on the sidelines and say what you should do and shouldn't do, and to make accusations, and you hear comments that you shouldn't hear about elected officials in general sometimes, and I get the frustration. I mean, I understand the frustration, and I try to never take it personally, but it is personal.
Yeah.
And it does hurt because in your heart and mind that you're trying to do the right thing. The difference and the problem is you can't agree on what the right thing is at the time because everybody's got an opinion.
Yes.
And so it takes a while to weave through that and figure out what is the right thing overall for everybody, and then try to come to that conclusion of what that might be. And the council's done a good job. So some of the comments made really were not fair. And I've said this in other interviews. Not a one of those guys wants to do anything other than do the right thing for whatever they can do to help people in this parish.
Yeah.
They're all great guys, and they're putting a lot of time in that let's face it, they're not paid for.
Yeah.
They're putting in an awful lot of time that they're not paid for. Now, they sign up for the job,
Sure.
so they're elected to do the job, and they do it. But if more people would get involved instead of sitting back on the sidelines, they would realize how this process works. And it's a slow-moving process.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of time involved in it.
100%. And just glad to see the wheels turning and things, getting done. And we'll end up in the end a better parish because
Absolutely.
I believe that.
William Waldrep of TWFG Insurance in Denham Springs can service all of your insurance needs. Offering auto, life, health, and commercial insurance, William Waldrep of TWFG Insurance is a proud supporter of Local Leaders, the podcast.
Waterway cleanup. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah,
some exciting stuff going there.
Well, that's one of the things, Jim, that just the hurricane wiped out, roughly $40 million worth of work we had done that had never, ever been done in this parish before. Yeah. And it's not that no one ever wanted to do it. The flood allowed us to get some funding that the parish never otherwise would have been able to receive.
Right.
And so we had done the work. And we're so proud of being able to have gotten that work done and had a little bit more to do. We're waiting on a couple other projects to be approved. Then here comes the hurricane, wipes all of that out. Well, people expect you to get right back in the waterways and get the stuff out, right? I mean, I would. If I'm sitting there, I would expect that too. Well, the funding didn't happen.
Yeah.
FEMA said no. We just spent $35 to $40 million in Livingston Parish already. We're not going to do this again.
Yeah.
And people that know Mark Harrell, my former Homeland Security Director, that know him well, know that he was not going to take that for an answer. And he finally wound up getting with enough people, getting enough agreements in place that we're now back in the waterways with funding, cleaning out the waterways again. We still have some projects that need to be approved, but we've got crews out there working, cleaning the waterways. The roads we took care of immediately. He got on top of that. We had, I think at one time 40 or 45, 47 or 8 trucks on the road. No other parish had that many.
Yeah.
Right after the storm cleaning the roadways.
Yeah.
But people really didn't realize how much devastation there was from that hurricane on this side of the parish. But if you got to Livingston over and in the south, you saw it. It was just horrendous.
Springfield, all that area.
It was horrendous. And but we got that done quick.
Yeah.
And because you get so many days, then it's at 100%.
Yeah.
And Mark was determined to get as much of that as he possibly could, and I give him credit because he spearheads that.
Very good.
And he got it done. So then it was a matter of getting in the waterways, which we now are. And I'll touch a little bit on this just to kind of give a heads up. But as I mentioned to you, there's some good things coming for the Amite River. I hope to announce that in the next few weeks that I think will make a difference. But one thing I think people do need to, and I know they do, and so I don't really mean that exactly how that sounded, but need to understand is in Livingston Parish, you're always going to have some areas that flood.
Sure.
You can blame it on the growth. You can blame it on a lot of different things, and that all of those things play a small part of it. But we lie low. We're going to flood. We've got areas that are going to flood. So our job, and we view this as our job and our role as parish officials, is to do everything we can to limit the amount of that we possibly can. And we're working every day to do that. So I hope people at least understand that. And one thing I did hear after the flood, because there were some areas that I thought, I forget what storm came up afterwards, that I thought were going to have trouble.
Yeah.
And I saw a Facebook post about north of on the Tickfall, north of Holden. Well, I looked the lady up and I called. And I said, I'm on my way, and she said, well, I'm about to take on water, and called me back and said, you don't need to come. The water's dropping. I said, it can't be dropping. She said, it's dropping. That cleanup y'all did made all the difference in the world.
All right.
So it works.
Yeah.
It's just getting the funding. But there again, and the point I wanted to make on all that is, initially all you heard was we got all these millions, but it had to go through channel after channel to be approved for us to actually use those monies. So just because you hear another elected official or someone say, well, Livingston Parish just got $50 million, it's not like they wrote me a check and handed me $50 million and everybody's ready to go.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. But it eventually will get done if we do our job, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, and you hear people talk about grants, and grants are great. And I was one of the ones that was ignorant to this years ago, and I would hear the word grant thrown around, and I'm like, well, just go get a grant.
That's right.
But you don't realize that you have to have a match to that grant. So it's great the government will give you a $3 million grant, but you got to come up with $1.5 million.
That's exactly right.
That's the trick, right?
And that's the trick, and it's being able to utilize your budget to where you're able to do that. And that was one of the wonderful things about getting this road program paid off. The old road program, we've gone from 1.5 average per year, although we had jumped it because we skipped a year or two with the COVID, the flood, and the different things. We were able to utilize 7 or 8 million there, but now we're doing close to 17 million.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to do that. Well, that's because you've got match dollars that you can put up to do these special projects where we wouldn't have had some of that. So sometimes you got to say no when really it's a great opportunity to get some grant money to do things. You just don't have the match.
Yeah, you're just like, man, I wish we had that.
Man, you wish you had it so bad you can't stand it. And somebody said, well, man, you could have had all these grant dollars and did it. Yeah, well, where's the match? Because sometimes it's 25%. And so it's tough. The most time you can try to wind up getting it for 10%, but that's still a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
And we don't have a lot of money laying around in Livingston Parish. So we try to do the best we can with what we have, and I think overall we've done a good job with that. But can you do more? We can always do more. Sure. And I tell people all the time, I get it. If you don't see it in your backyard, or if your road is still taking on water, then as far as you're concerned, we've done nothing. Although we may have spent $40 million over here, if we didn't take care of you, you still have your problem.
Yeah.
And my dad taught me a long time ago, no matter how minute the problem may be, if somebody's got an issue, to them that's the most important issue they've got.
That's exactly.
And I've never forgotten him telling me that, and I've learned that lesson after being out here all these years.
Absolutely agree with that. Smart man there. BJ Pawn and Gun in Denham Springs wants to buy your unwanted gold jewelry, gold coins, and gold bullion. With 30 years of experience operating in the Livingston Parish area, BJ Pawn wants to be your source when selling your gold. So stop by BJ Pawn today for a no-obligation offer. BJ Pawn, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Let's talk about the y'all just had an audit, parish audit.
Yeah, we're actually. From the preliminary report I got, it's going to be fantastic. We had a long time that was there when we came budget finding that apparently was never going to be able to be taken off the books. Well, this, and I don't know yet because I haven't seen the report, so I'm a little ahead of them. But it's been removed. Yeah, and so it looks like our audit finding is going to be just phenomenal this time.
Very good.
It's been good ever since Jennifer Myers took over that.
Boy, she's a rock star with them numbers.
She is a rock star with those numbers. Me and her sometimes fight over that, but I have to give her credit because, I'm old school. If I want to buy something, I want to buy it.
Right.
And she'll slap my hand just like Mama used to. No, you're not getting that today. And but bless her heart, it pays off, and our budget is where it should be thanks to her.
Yeah.
And she does a fantastic job, and our audit has shown that year in and year out. And this time it's going to be, I think, one of the best we've ever had. Yeah. When we took over, there were over 60 findings.
No kidding.
And she whittled it down that very first year to less than 30.
Wow.
And she has zero, well, with the one that we knew was going to supposedly stay on there, she's narrowed it down through the years. And this one looks like we're going to zero it out.
And has she been there since the first time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
All my directors have.
Yeah. That's... Well,
all my directors have.
Says a lot about you, sir.
It is unheard of in parish government, and I couldn't be more pleased. When I originally took over, there was a lady that I was going to hire for finance director, and the council wouldn't accept it. So I brought Jennifer in. They accepted her, and she's been there ever since. So they've all been with me.
Yeah, and I've seen her stand up in those council meetings, and she's Johnny on the spot with them numbers.
She is. And she knows her numbers.
Yes.
She got no political coof about her, but she knows her numbers. But and people pick at me all the time about Jennifer, but that pays off for me.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I told all my directors, and if you ask them, they'll tell you this. When we met before we got actually took the oath and went into office, and then right after we went into office, we met again, and I told them, I said, I don't want yes people.
Yeah.
I don't want people to look at me like I'm the king of the hill. I want you to grab me by the shoulder and stop me if I'm doing something wrong. Correct me if I'm doing something wrong. Tell me what I need to do it right. Not in public, obviously.
Yeah.
But you all come to my office whenever and jump my behind if I'm doing something wrong and tell me why.
Yeah.
Because I want to do this right.
Yeah.
And they do that.
Yeah.
They've never hesitated on doing that, Jim.
You almost regret telling them that.
I mean, they don't mind it at all. So I've gotten it chewed out several times through the years,
sure.
And half joking about that. But I give them credit. They've been a great group, and they do. They come to me with whatever. And Jennifer's one of those that if you know her, you know I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
She talks to me just like she would the guy on the street. I mean, it makes no difference who I am.
Yeah.
But it has paid off. I love it. I admire and respect her tremendously for her talent, and she's very good at what she does.
Yeah, very good, and she does a great job with your department over there at the parish council. And so shout out to you, Miss Jennifer, for doing all your good work.
Yeah, I hate to compliment her in public.
Yeah. Yep. She's probably saying that right now. I can't believe it.
I can't believe that.
So one thing I like to do on this show, I want people to get a little sense of who you are outside of the parish council, and so I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of tell people, what hobbies do you have outside? I know you like to work out.
Workout is my thing. I don't golf or hunt or fish really, which is hard to say in Livingston Parish. I did a lot of that growing up.
Yeah.
But, I guess since I was 7 years old, my dad got me a 165-pound old iron weight.
I remember those,
set,
man.
and all you got was the Joe Weider book to go with it.
Yeah.
You'd stand on uneven ground out in the front yard. So I've had the back surgeries and the neck surgeries and the shoulder, all those things through the years. I absolutely love it. I still go at 3:30, every morning to work out.
How you do that, I will never know.
I've just been fortunate. I've never been one of those that had to have sleep.
Yeah.
I've always thought at some point it would catch up with me. It never has. My mom used to tell me all the time and tell my wife, he never even slept as a baby. His dad and I would cry because we'd be so tired. He'd just sit there. He never slept. He just wouldn't sleep. He didn't cry, but he just wouldn't sleep. Yeah. I'm like that today. If I get 2.5 to 3 hours, I'm good.
Wow.
And so I do. I love working out. I love to challenge myself with that. Of course, enjoy working out in the yard.
Sure.
But the grandkids are the big thing today.
Yeah.
And I love spending every minute I can with them doing things that they like to do, and spending time with them in the pool and all these other things. They're a trip. I mean, they're a trip. And,
People always say that, I've got 3 kids, and they're like, wait till you get grandkids.
it is unbelievable. Look,
You love them like
we have
no
5, and I can't imagine loving the kids like you're talking about any more than I do. But when those grandkids come along, it just touches your heart in a way you just can't believe.
Really?
Oh my God!
Oh, man.
And
That's
it's
awesome.
amazing. The time you get to spend with them is just a joy. I mean,
Very
it is
good.
absolutely wonderful. It really is. Awesome. And we're fortunate enough now. We moved. I finally left Denham Springs and moved to Walker, and moved right across the street from our youngest daughter with the 2 small grandkids, and then she's got one on the way due in August, first part of August, end of this month. End of July, first part of August. So we're blessed to be right across the street from them, and the rest of them will come in and out. I've got them from 23 down now, so they come in and out. But it's fun. It's a good time. It's a good time with the kids. So I like that. I like that.
Yeah, very good. So, well, keep up the good work. Anytime you got anything to talk about that you think might benefit the citizens of the parish to know, feel free to come on here. You got an open invite, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it, Jim. Look, one thing I've always said, and it holds true today. I love Livingston Parish. I love the people in Livingston Parish. And even when we disagree on certain issues, we always seem to find a way to come back together. And we truly are like family in Livingston Parish. We fight sometimes amongst ourselves. We argue sometimes. We disagree. But then we come together when disasters hit. We come together when there's a tragedy. We come together when there's an illness or sickness. And I think it's what makes us who we are. So when we talk about subdivisions, we talk about growth, I never lose sight of how we live and how we want to continue to live. And I hope people will get that through these ordinances that the council's working on, because they get that too.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose that country hometown feeling that we have.
That's right.
But we know we've got to grow. So we want to do it with respect to how we live in Livingston Parish.
Can't say it any better than that. I agree 100%. Well, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
I want to thank all the viewers and listeners. Y'all support us more than we ever could have imagined when we started this show several years ago. And so please continue to comment, share, subscribe to Local Leaders of Podcast. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Thank you very much. Stephanie Berthelot and the crew at SR Enterprise can handle it all, from sheetrock to texture to paint. Give Stephanie a call at 504-432-9284. SR Enterprise, where they spread the paint and you spread the word.